the hidden reason your muscles stop responding after 60, and 7 fruits that fix it. You've been doing the right things, or at least what everyone told you were the right things. Eating protein, staying as active as you can, maybe taking a supplement here and there, and yet something still isn't adding up. You're still feeling weaker than you expected to feel, still slower on the stairs, still waking up stiff in a way that wasn't there 5 years ago, still noticing that a walk in the afternoon takes more out of you than it used to. Here's what I want you to consider. What if the effort was never the problem? What if there's something happening inside your body right now? Something quiet, something that doesn't show up on a blood test your doctor ordered, something that nobody brought up at your last appointment. That's been working against your muscles this whole time, not instead of protein, not instead of exercise, alongside them, canceling out a percentage of everything you've been doing right. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly what that hidden block is and what specifically removes it. Let's start with what's actually happening. After 60, your muscles don't just get older. They start receiving weaker instructions. Think about that for a moment. You eat a piece of chicken. Your body breaks it down into amino acids. Those amino acids enter your bloodstream. And inside your muscle cells, there's a signal, like a switch, that reads the protein you just ate and says, use this, build something, repair what broke down today. That switch still exists after 60. It's still there, but something has turned the volume down on it, like a light on a dimmer that never quite reaches full brightness. So even when you eat enough, even when you move enough, the muscle receives the instruction at half volume and responds accordingly. And that's something. We'll come back to it, because the first fruit on this list is going to show you the first piece of what it is. The first one is pineapple. And what it does is unusual. Pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain. You won't find it in most foods. It's specific to pineapple, concentrated in the fruit and the core. And bromelain does something that most nutrients don't. It actively suppresses the production of 2 proteins in your body. Those proteins are part of your body's inflammatory response. And here's the first piece of the puzzle. After 60, many people carry a low level of those proteins circulating in their system all the time, not from an injury, not from an illness, just quietly present. Scientists call it inflammaging, chronic low-grade inflammation that stays turned on even when there's nothing to fight. And it's far more common in adults over 60 than most people realize. Now here's why it connects directly to your muscles. Those same proteins, the ones driving that background inflammation, also suppress the signal that tells your muscle cells to build. They turn down the very switch that reads your protein intake and says, use this. So even when you eat enough, even when you exercise, the instruction arrives at a lower volume. The muscle responds less, rebuilds less, and month by month, less muscle stays. Bromelain interrupts that process, not by masking symptoms, by going to the source and reducing those proteins directly. Eat about half a cup of fresh pineapple within an hour after any physical activity, a walk, light exercise, anything that uses your muscles. The reason timing matters is that inflammation spikes after exertion. For younger bodies, that spike resolves quickly. After 60, it lingers longer. Bromelain shortens that window. Less time inflamed means more time in repair mode. Over weeks, the difference accumulates. Fresh is best. Canned in 100% juice with no added sugar works. Avoid anything packed in syrup. The added sugar drives the very inflammation you're trying to reduce. Now, pineapple quiets the fire, but even with the fire quieted, there's a second obstacle that operates completely independently, and the next fruit is the only one on this list that addresses it directly. Fruit number 2 is pomegranate. When inflammation is high, blood vessels constrict. They become less flexible. Blood flows more slowly. And the practical result of that is simple. Fewer nutrients reach your muscle tissue, the amino acids from your last meal, the minerals your muscles need to contract and repair. They're circulating, but delivery is reduced. Pomegranate contains a specific group of plant compounds, concentrated in the fruit and in its juice, that trigger your body to produce a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide relaxes the walls of your blood vessels and opens them up. That's not a small thing. Wider vessels mean more blood moving through, more oxygen arriving, more of the amino acids your muscles need to repair actually reaching the muscle tissue instead of circulating without getting delivered. Think of it this way. Pineapple quiets the fire. Pomegranate opens the road so help can get through. 4 to 8 ounces of 100% pomegranate juice, no added sugar, before or after physical activity. Or eat the whole fruit, focusing on the seeds and juice sacs where the concentration is highest. Research suggests regular consumption can measurably reduce the muscle soreness that peaks 1 to 2 days after activity. For someone over 60 who avoids exertion because the recovery feels too costly, that's not a minor thing. It's the difference between moving again tomorrow or waiting until the weekend. But here's what pineapple and pomegranate together still can't solve. Because there's a third reason muscle loss continues, one that operates at an entirely different level. And it's the reason some people stay consistent with activity, but still find their muscles won't respond. Fruit number 3 surprises most people. Tart cherries, not the sweet dark variety you find in a can, specifically the sour tart type. And there's a reason the distinction matters. When you exercise, small amounts of damage happen in muscle fibers. That's normal. That's actually necessary. It's the signal that tells your body to rebuild those fibers slightly stronger. The problem comes when the soreness from that damage lingers too long. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. You feel stiff, you feel cautious, and the gap between your activity sessions grows. That gap is expensive. Because consistent activity is what keeps generating the signal that tells your muscles to maintain themselves. When activity becomes irregular, not because you're unmotivated, but because recovery is slow and uncomfortable, the signal becomes irregular too. And irregular signaling is one of the most underappreciated drivers of muscle loss after 60. Tart cherries contain high concentrations of anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their deep color. These have some of the strongest anti-inflammatory activity found in any fruit. Studies with human participants have shown significant reductions in muscle damage markers and soreness scores in people who consume tart cherry products consistently. The recovery window shortens, the stiffness resolves sooner, and the result is that staying active becomes something your body supports instead of something you have to push through. 8 ounces of 100% tart cherry juice daily. No added sugar, or use frozen tart cherries, which are widely available year-round and just as effective. Fresh are available in early summer. Stir them into yogurt, blend them cold, eat them on their own. You now understand the first 3 pieces of this problem: inflammation blocking the signal, circulation limiting delivery, recovery gaps breaking the consistency of the stimulus. There are 4 more pieces. And one of them coming up in a moment. Most people have never connected it to muscle loss at all. Now, number 4, and this one goes inside the cell itself. Red and purple grapes contain a compound called resveratrol, and resveratrol acts on something most people have never thought about in relation to their muscles, the mitochondria. Mitochondria are the structures inside every cell that produce energy. Your muscle cells are packed with them. When you need to take a step, climb a stair, or carry something across the room, mitochondria are what power that movement. They convert the food you eat into the energy your cells actually use. As we age, mitochondrial function declines. The ones that are there produce less energy. The machinery slows down, and the result, before it shows up in how you feel, is that your muscles have less power available to contract, less energy available to repair, less capacity to respond to the building signal even when everything else is working right. You can reduce inflammation, you can improve circulation, but if the engine inside the muscle cell is running at 60%, the output will reflect that. Resveratrol appears to activate a repair process inside your cells, one that helps your mitochondria work more efficiently, and in some cases may support the production of new ones to replace those that have worn down. Think of it like a maintenance crew that was sitting idle finally getting called back to work. The evidence in humans is still developing. This is an active area of research, but the biological mechanism is well characterized and the direction of the findings is consistent. Your cells produce more energy. your muscles have more power available to contract, repair, and respond. 1 generous cup of red or purple grapes daily. The resveratrol is in the skin, so eat the whole grape. Red and purple varieties contain dramatically more than green ones. If grapes aren't available, a small amount of unsweetened 100% red grape juice is a reasonable substitute, though whole fruit is better for the fiber. The next one changes the context entirely, because all 4 things we've covered, inflammation, circulation, recovery, cellular energy, those are interventions. They address what's actively going wrong. But there's a quieter problem running underneath all of them, and it's about what never arrives in the first place. Halfway through the list, and this one is easy to underestimate, figures, and specifically, what they do to your gut. As digestion slows with age, something happens that doesn't get nearly enough attention. The community of bacteria living in your digestive tract shifts in ways that reduce its ability to extract nutrients fully from food. Protein passes through less completely absorbed. Minerals are taken up less efficiently. You could be eating a clean diet with adequate protein and still have a meaningful portion of those nutrients exiting your body without ever reaching your muscles. This isn't a rare edge case. It's common, and it means that the real limiting factor for many people isn't what they eat. It's what actually gets absorbed. Figs are rich in prebiotic fiber, not just fiber that moves things through, fiber that specifically feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. When those bacteria are well nourished, they multiply, they strengthen the gut lining, and they improve the environment for nutrient absorption across the board. Amino acids from protein get taken up more completely. Minerals have a better chance of making it into circulation and reaching the muscle tissue where they're needed. And figs bring more than fiber. Magnesium, essential for muscle relaxation and for the process that rebuilds tissue. Calcium, necessary for the muscle contraction signal to fire properly. Vitamin B6, which helps your body process amino acids and convert them into usable form for repair. 2 to 3 fresh figs daily, or 4 to 5 dried figs with no added sugar. Dried are available year-round, easy to carry, and completely effective. Add them to oatmeal, eat them with a small amount of soft cheese, or have them mid-afternoon. The gut bacteria respond to consistent feeding, not occasional additions. Regularity is what produces the effect. If you've made it this far, you already understand something most people your age don't. The issue was never effort. It was environment. The muscle hasn't given up. It's been working against a system that was never fully reset. That's exactly what we're resetting, piece by piece. Now, pay attention here, because right now you understand 5 pieces of the same hidden problem. Inflammation suppressing the building signal, vascular restriction limiting delivery, recovery gaps, breaking stimulus, consistency, cellular energy declining inside the muscle, absorption gaps preventing nutrients from arriving. 5 separate obstacles, all contributing to the same result, muscles that keep declining even when you're trying. There are 2 more pieces, and the 6th one protects something none of the previous 5 has touched. The 6th one is easy to overlook, prunes, and they address a vulnerability in the very structure your muscles depend on. Muscle doesn't work alone. It works in constant physical partnership with bone, contracting against it, anchoring to it, relying on it for leverage and stability. When bone density decreases, the muscle absorbs more of the load. It compensates. It overworks to stabilize joints that bone used to support more solidly. And that compensatory overwork, day after day, movement after movement, accelerates fatigue and contributes directly to the muscle loss you're trying to prevent. Prunes have one of the most well-documented effects on bone preservation in the entire food supply. The mechanism involves multiple pathways working together. Certain vitamins and minerals in prunes support bone mineral density. Antioxidants reduce damage to bone cells. And something in the specific combination of compounds in prunes appears to slow down the cells whose job is to break bone tissue apart. Your body is constantly in a cycle of breaking down old bone and building new bone. As we age, that cycle tips, more breaking down, less building back. Prunes seem to help rebalance that cycle in favor of preservation. Studies, specifically in postmenopausal women, one of the populations most vulnerable to age-related bone loss, have shown measurable preservation of hip and spinal density with regular prune consumption compared to those who didn't eat them. Those are meaningful findings. 4 to 6 prunes daily. That's the quantity used in most of the relevant studies. Eat them as a snack. Add them to oatmeal or to a grain dish. Soften them in warm water if you prefer a different texture. Don't significantly exceed that amount. The digestive effects of overconsumption are well known. When your bones are stronger, your muscles work more efficiently. Less energy lost to compensation means more available for everything else, for repair, for growth, for the building signal that we've been restoring piece by piece through this entire list. And the last one on this list does something none of the others do. It works every single day, whether you've been active or not. Piers, everything we've talked about so far. The inflammation, the circulation, the recovery, the cellular energy, the gut, the bones. Those are the active interventions. But that background inflammation doesn't only spike during exercise or stress. It runs at a low level continuously, and the window during which your muscles can build gets compressed every time that background level rises. What your muscles also need is a daily layer of maintenance, something that keeps that chronic baseline suppressed on the ordinary days. The Tuesday when you don't exercise, the Thursday when you eat a normal lunch and don't think about it, the Sunday when nothing particular happens. Piers contain a range of plant compounds that early research suggests help quiet the molecular trigger behind chronic inflammation, the same background fire we talked about at the very beginning. Not dramatically, not all at once, but consistently, day after day, at a low level. And that consistency is exactly the point, because inflammaging doesn't take days off. The thing that fights it shouldn't either. Piers also provide vitamin C for collagen synthesis, keeping the tendons and connective tissue that support your muscles flexible and less prone to injury, and fiber that extends the gut support, started by figs. 1 pair a day. Simple, accessible, and available in any grocery store, any time of year. Now, here's the full picture. You've just watched 7 different pieces of the same problem come together, and now you can see what none of the individual pieces showed on their own. The problem was never protein. The problem was never effort. It was an environment inside your body that had gradually become hostile to muscle repair, chronic inflammation turning down the building signal, circulation restricted, limiting delivery, recovery slow, making consistent activity feel like too high a cost, cellular energy declining, leaving the muscle underpowered, gut absorption incomplete, creating a nutrient gap that no amount of eating could fully close, bones losing density, forcing muscles into compensatory overwork, and no daily maintenance keeping the background fire at bay. Each of these 7 fruits addresses one of those pieces, not as a miracle, as food that contains specific compounds with specific biological actions, compounds that, when added consistently to what you're already doing, help restore the environment that makes everything else you're doing actually work. That's what nobody told you. The effort was right. The environment needed to change. Take the next 7 days. You don't need to add all 7 at once. Start with 2 or 3. Pineapple after your next walk. Tart cherry juice in the morning. A pear in the afternoon. Begin there. In the first few days, most people notice something subtle but real. They move with slightly less resistance the morning after activity. The stiffness that used to hang around for 2 days starts resolving in 1. A flight of stairs doesn't require the same mental preparation it did the week before. These aren't dramatic changes, but they're the body signaling that the environment is beginning to shift. By day 7, if you've been consistent, staying active may feel a little less like something you have to negotiate with your body and a little more like something it's actually willing to support. That's the beginning of a different direction, and you understand now, in a way most people don't, exactly why. This channel is for people who want to understand what's actually happening inside their bodies, not just a list of things to eat, but the reason behind each one, the mechanism, the why. If that's what you've been looking for, subscribing means you'll be here the next time we go this deep on something most videos leave unexplained. And if something in this changed the way you think about your muscles and what's been quietly working against them, the like button helps other people over 60 find this when they need it. As always, if you have specific health conditions, are managing a chronic illness, or are on medication, please talk with your doctor or a registered dietitian before making significant changes to your diet. They know your individual picture in a way no video can. Take care of yourself. You've earned the right to understand your own body.